Hey, it's Carmen. Happy Wednesday. I'm super excited to be here. I'm sad to say that I have professional clothing on, so no fun t-shirts. But fun fact about me that you may not know is I like dorky t-shirts. So you'll probably see more of them as I continue to do this every Wednesday. For those of you who do not know me, my name's Carmen. I am a myofunctional therapist. I also am a myofunctional educator. So I help people all over the world not only do therapy, but I also teach it. I help dentists implement it into their office. I speak. I do all the things myofunctional therapy. So therefore, I am your myofunctional educator extraordinaire. So I'm super happy to be here. My new blog came out and it was about tongue posture or mouth posture, I guess I should say. And I'm going to just kind of continue that conversation that I was having because this is something, that's super important. And it seems like it was a really hot topic this week as I met with a lot of parents. With it being summer, I get a lot of parents who contact me because they're wondering about their kids. And the thing is what is happening that really is just breaking my heart and it's frustrating is these parents are contacting me and they're saying like, hey, my little guy had a frenectomy done when he was just an infant and, had the anterior clipped and it was for breastfeeding issues, but he's probably fine. It probably wasn't as good as it could have been, but he's probably fine. And so the reason that breaks my heart is because I need to grab these parents and shake them like this because it's not fine. It's not okay. So it's so important because when I tell those parents, your kid's face is going to develop, and if you want it to develop properly, not only so that we're good looking dudes, but so that your kid can be a good looking dude who can breathe. That's kind of important. And maybe a good looking dude who doesn't have sleep apnea, behavior issues, bedwetting issues, grinding issues, trouble with attention deficit, hyperactivity, that kind of stuff. So it's really important. So I'm going to dive deeper into that. So first, I'm going to talk about two things, tongue posture and mouth posture, because oftentimes they get used interchangeably, which is totally fine, but I want you to know what each is. So correct mouth posture is mouth closed, lips together, and then I say teeth relaxed. So you don't need to be biting down. That's not what we want. Teeth necessarily aren't meant to touch unless you're eating, and it's kind of that mortar and pestle, but teeth should be relaxed. So I say about 1 millimeter apart. What I don't want my clients to do, and I do have some that do this, is they close their lips, but they're open on the inside. So they do this. So they've got all of that. What goes on there, if you can think about that, these muscles are really short. So if you're stretching them all the time, I always just think it's like stretching a sock. Eventually it's going to wear out. So that is my highly unscientific thought process about that. But let me tell you what's more scientific, the mouth posture. So we want you to close your teeth, relax your face. So many of you guys have just a crazy face tension and in your jaw. So you're worried about that. So close your mouth, bring your teeth together, don't clench them, close your mouth, seal your lips. Okay, so that's correct mouth posture. Now, you've probably heard me say this a bajillion times about tongue posture. I want your tongue to live tip to tail in the roof of your mouth. So you might be like this right here. Here's the tip, here's the middle, here's the back. So if we want to support the airway, which is this guy back here, we need the tongue to be up. So first we start with the tip. So this is learning to get the tongue on home base or on the spot, as we call it. The middle of the tongue then comes up and then the back of the tongue comes up. So when somebody is working, when they're just working on their tongue posture and they're just working on having that tongue tip to tail in the roof of the mouth, I don't let my clients suction it up there. I want them to get strong enough and have the ability to lay it up there. So now don't get me wrong. I do a ton of suction and hold type of stuff in my practice, but I don't want you to think that your resting tongue posture is suctioned up there. So I tell my clients that they're going to learn to put their tongue on the spot, kind of like a lawn dart or a piece of Velcro, and they're going to roll the tongue up into the roof of the mouth like they were rolling air out of a bread bag or out of a bag of chips, something like that. So, or squeezing the air out of like a sandwich bag. So when you do that, that just puts your tongue in the right position. Another thing that I sometimes do is I will take like a stick of extra gum, like the long skinny piece, and I will just tear it off in half, put it on my tongue, and push it to the roof of my mouth. I also teach like a fruit roll-up press for kids, where we put strips of that fruit roll-up up on the tongue and they push it up there. Once they get the tongue up there, that's where it needs to go. So that's correct tongue posture. Hopefully that is clear as mud to you guys. Okay, so why does this matter? This matters because it affects the craniofacial growth. So let me go back just for a wee minute to an infant. So when an infant is born and they breastfeed, the benefit of breastfeeding, totally aside from the nutritious aspect of it, is that when the tongue goes up and it presses the breast, that is work. So every time that infant is pressing the breast up, they're strengthening the tongue, and then they're also spreading that maxilla so it can help to widen the arch. If you think about it, there's a finite space. So if you take your arch and there's no tongue up there to provide the scaffolding support to spread it out, it's going to be narrow and it's going to be this tall hump. So first of all, you're going to have a speed bump living in your nasal cavity. Top of the mouth is the bottom of the floor of the nasal cavity. So that can be an issue with breathing and congestion, but there's a finite space. So you either help your kid go this way or they're going to go this way. That's just how that's going to happen. So when we're talking about craniofacial growth with correct tongue and correct mouth posture, we want the maxilla to drive the shape of the face, and we want it to grow big and forward. Nasal breathing is going to help with that. Chewing is going to help the jaw. But when you chew, that helps the shape of these bones. So we want the mid face, which is the mandible, to be big and come forward. Then the next is the mandible is gonna follow it. So the mandible is your jaw. This should be like a lid on a box. So the maxilla is first, and it's going to be a bit bigger, or it's meant to be a bit bigger than the mandible. The mandible is gonna grow forward. When it grows forward, what's it going to bring with it? It's going to bring the tongue, it's going to bring tissue, it's going to bring the airway. So that helps with that airway issue. So really, if you look at it in the big picture, while we all want our kids to be good looking people, we also want them to breathe. And so it's more important for proper craniofacial development for the airway, for the face, so that we can get teeth in. You can't get all the teeth in the head if there's not enough space. Okay, so it just isn't going to happen. And so really, and you guys already know this, I'm very passionate about it because nobody has a voice for kids except, people like me, people who educate. Parents, also dentists, also dental hygienists. I harp this on every single student who takes my program, every person that I coach. If you are a dental hygienist and you're watching this, you need to be watching for misguided growth. Parents need to be watching for misguided growth. And the reason being is because you want your kid to have this nice, big U-shaped arch. We don't want a V-shape. We don't want crowding and all of that jazz. So when you have a kiddo who you just think it's genetic, oh, Tommy got mom's little petite mouth and all of his teeth are going to come in sideways, and because there's so much crowding, don't sit back and accept it. Don't sit back and accept that you ask your dentist who tells you, oh, they're fine. It makes me so mad to tell you this story, but I have been a hygienist in an office where a parent asked a question about a boy who had a thumb sucking habit. And my boss looked in that kid's mouth and said, your kid already has jacked up teeth. They're already crowded. He's already going to need braces. I wouldn't worry about the habit till he's 12 or 14. The problem with that is that the face is done developing. It's about 90% done by age 10 to 12. So you can see the problem there. If you don't get on it early, that makes a big difference. So parents, when you're watching for misguided craniofacial growth, if you see your kids' teeth are super crowded, find an orthotropic type of orthodontist, because early intervention is how they do things. They don't do things cosmetically to beautifully straighten your teeth and all that stuff, because it's nice. I have a daughter, she has beautiful teeth, but she has 2 completely destroyed TM joints, and she also has sleep apnea and upper airway resistance because she had retractive headgear. Whole nother conversation. But my point here is, if you see something going awry, don't sit back and wait for your child to grow into it. If you have a kiddo who has a ton of crowding, looks like they have this V-shaped palate, super high arch, that kind of stuff, maybe seeking a second or a third or a fourth opinion. Advocate for your kid. Ask questions. If it doesn't make sense, ask more questions. That's going to be important, because ultimately it can be your kid's airway in the end. And that's where I'm at with a 23-year-old. And like I said, in there, dentists and hygienists need to be watching for that stuff. Okay, so I think that really covers it. Where do you get started if you think you have problems or if your kiddo has concerns? So you can always reach out and ask questions, so I can guide you what to do. You can find your person. You need to find a myofunctional therapist first to guide you. There's a lot of craziness out there. There's a lot of other opinions. Find somebody that you know, like, and trust, who you want to take you on this journey, because it's going to be a process. So with me, if somebody chooses to work with me, there's 2 options to get started. You can start with my free self-assessment tool, and this is for somebody who likes to figure out if they have problems first. So if you're the person who's always Googling mouth breathing, or do I have a tumor, or whatever, if you're the person who likes to research and know that kind of stuff, then at the bottom of any one of my blogs, let me put up the link here. You can sign up to download my assessment tool. This assessment tool is what my partners all over the world use as a screening tool before sending people to me. So some people don't want to just jump in, so they want to see why they have concerns. There's 25 of the most important questions that I ask during a comprehensive exam. So go through this. There's also a child assessment tool, so they're going to be right there for you to see. You can do that, or you can start, if you want to just jump in, you can meet with me for a free 30-minute assessment. Now, this is not an exam. However, it's a great opportunity for you to meet me. See if you like me. See if we could have fun together, because it has to be a personality match. I tell you guys that all the time, or else it's awkward and we dread seeing each other. But it gives you a chance to see what therapy online is like, because this is the way I do it. I mean, you're going to see this picture behind me every stinking time you do therapy with me. It gives you a chance to have your questions answered. It also gives us a chance to talk about the process and make sure that it makes sense for you to move on to a paid exam, because the last thing I ever want to happen is that you pay me for an exam and then I tell you that you're golden. No problem. So I never want that to happen. Everybody has to have an exam. So an adult is 90 minutes, a youth is 60 minutes. I walk you through 2 pages of questions. We go all the way back to you as an infant, what questions, what problems you had. We talk about airway, digestive stuff, speech therapy, dental history, sleep quality, transition to solid foods, eating, those type of things, swallowing. We talk about all the things, and all the things that you probably have no idea are related to myofunctional impairment, but it's my job to point them out to you so you can understand. And my goal is, by the time we get done with your comprehensive exam, is that you have this many questions, because I've done such a good job educating you. So that's what I'm after. So those are your options. You can start with the self-assessment tool, which you can download at the bottom of any blog. And right here, I have put the link, pretty fancy. You can schedule a free assessment with me, which is a 30-minute appointment. If you go to my website, which is Myofunctional Therapy, the number 4, the letter U.com. So if you're looking at this link for the assessment tool, it's just obviously the front part of that link. On there, you can schedule the free assessment. You can schedule a comprehensive exam if you want to start there. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that if you have questions, get answers. Get started on your journey, because this is life-changing, not only for children, but for adults. But I am always a huge, huge advocate for the kiddos. You guys know that. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the #1 question of all time. So super excited. Last, I always ask you this, please share me, share us, share me and my team. We work very hard behind the scenes to bring you all this information. And we also have a lot of other magic to make happen, like like doing myofunctional therapy. So follow us, share us, like us. I have the tongue tie and myofunctional therapy support group. You can find me on YouTube. There's tons of videos. If you have a question, I have answered it on YouTube or on my blog, so you can look there. Next week, I will be answering the #1 question of all time, and that is a wrap. So I will see you guys in the next Myo Minute or the Myo 13 minutes. See you next week.